This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Here are some things which I often forget which are actually surprisingly useful. Now hopefully these just aren't things which I forget which you will know about. Hopefully it's either new stuff to you which you didn't know before, don't know what happened then, or it's things you did know about which you had forgotten about. So here's a list, we're going to jump through them really quickly. There's probably more which I've forgotten about. Yeah. Anyway. Project Manager, I've got a few in there. So I've got my Project Manager here. This is the main one I use for all these YouTube videos. And as you can see, it's a bit of a mess because I always forget you can make folders within here. There's an icon right here, add a folder. You can just make folders and then put stuff in them. I know it's really obvious, but I always forget. And my Project Manager, my databases, libraries, are always a bit of a mess. So next up, notes. This is actually more of a new one which I learned rather than something I forgot. But if we click on this icon here to see our list view, and if we right click on the column headings, there is a notes column. Notes. You can set notes for your different projects. To do it, you simply open up the project, click on file at the top, and there's an option down here, project notes. This little thing will appear and you just type things away. Weirdly, the save button always seems to be grayed out. But if you just close that down, it will save those notes. Whenever you look at it within the project manager, your notes are there. Sticking with the project manager, if you right click within an empty space, you can enable dynamic project switching. That does exactly what it says on the tin. It allows you to open more than one project up at once, and then you can really quickly just switch between the 2 or 3 of them. Just remember, they'll all be sitting in RAM, so if you're on an older machine, it may start to chug things up just a little bit. Now, the benefit of this is because they are sat there, they're quicker to open. You can jump between them relatively quickly, and it makes it really easy to copy and paste from one thing to another. You can just copy a bunch of stuff off the timeline, hop into the other one, paste it onto that timeline, and you're good to go. So it's worth knowing it's there. As I say, I forget it is, so there you go. Oh, and don't forget this one. This is a brand new project, but I don't want to have to go in and set my project settings. So instead, if we click on the little house icon bottom right hand corner to open up our project manager, we can go to any of our previously created projects, like this one down here. We can right click and we can load the project settings to the current project. So we can steal the project settings from this one and bring it into the project we currently have open. Cool. Next up, let's actually jump into Davinci Resolve and start looking at some of the other stuff. And the first one, this is prompted by someone recently that asked me a very simple question. And they said, why is your Davinci Resolve grey and mine's blue? And it's actually an option which I must have ticked some time ago and completely forgot was there. So within Resolve, if we click on Davinci Resolve top left, Preferences, and then we simply go to User, and then we've got the UI settings. You have the option to use grey background for user interface and use grey background in viewers. And I ticked them because I liked the grey apparently, and it stayed. Now sticking with the properties, on this exact same screen, UI settings, we do have the UI display scale. So if everything looks really small, you can come in here and change the display scale. Do not just immediately set it to 200 to see how it looks, because if you set it too big, it can be quite difficult to get back in there and reset it. And while we're in here, a couple more. Make sure that you have the live save enabled. It can really save you bacon. The timeline backups is another one to check because again, it can save you bacon. And if we go to editing, I use these all the time. So I have the smart bin for timelines, which means my timelines are super easy to locate. Automatic smart bins, all this sort of stuff. Down here, we have these general settings. Again, something I quite often forget about. You have things like the standard generator duration. So if you keep grabbing your adjustment clips, putting them on the timeline, and they're either massive or they're too short, if you change that generator duration, that will affect things like your adjustment clips. And then of course, we've got transition duration for transitions and still duration for any images you drop on the timeline, that sort of stuff. So it's worth just having a quick look within here. Now, really quickly, before we close this window, you can save all of these user controls as presets. So you simply click on the 3 little dots, go to save user preferences as a preset. You can have multiple different presets which you can load, export, delete, and whatever you need. Now, this is really handy if you've got certain types of projects you work on that require, let's say, different length standard generators, because maybe they're longer projects, or certain ones you don't want the smart bins on for collections. You can just amend them, create a new preset, and then it's really quickly to come in here, just choose the preset you want, and you're good to go. Right, now before we get onto the actual edit page stuff, I just need to thank this video sponsor, Squarespace. You'll probably all have heard of Squarespace by now because it is the all-in-one platform to help you grow your online business. Whether you need a website to showcase a portfolio, or you want to sell physical or digital products in an online store, or even if you're looking to arrange one-to-one consultations with the built-in scheduling tools, Squarespace has everything you need all in one super handy place. There's loads of great templates to pick from, all of which can be customized until your heart is content. You can customize the colors, change the new layout, and bring all of your fantastic ideas to life. So if you fancy checking out Squarespace for your very self, head over to squarespace.com/MrAlexTech to start your free trial. And then when you're ready to launch, you can save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain using the code MrAlexTech at checkout. Right, some edit page goodies now, and the first one, stacked timelines. I have talked about stacked timelines in the past. I try and remember that they are there because they are really helpful. But you can't actually save the toggle on. It always reverts to off, which is why it's so easy to forget. Now, stacked timelines aren't just useful for those people that use multiple timelines within a project. They're also really useful for me, especially for how they make working with compound clips that little bit easier. So on the edit page, we've got this icon, give that a click, and then we've got this one, top left. This is just stacked timelines. And then you get these little tabs across the top. We can click on the little plus, and then we just choose a different timeline, and we can have multiple timelines open at once. But if you're doing anything with multicams or compound clips, that's super handy. So I've got a compound clip on my timeline. If we right click, open in timeline, it just opens a new tab. So now, rather than having to drill down using this little address bar at the bottom left, we can simply switch between the compound clip and the timeline. Super useful. Now, there are a few to mention within the inspector, so let's bust through these really quickly. And the first one is this. If we click and drag the zoom, as you probably know, with your mouse, we can go up and down. But if you hold the Alt key, or Option if you're on a Mac, and then click, you just get finer adjustments. So you can just do really fine amendments to get your zoom, your position, your rotation, whatever, just perfect. Now, on the same note, if you want to reset any of those actual attributes, you can just double click on the name. So change the position, double click, and it will reset. Simple. Something else I always forget, let's change all this stuff. If I've messed with something like this, I've gone and amended all of this, and even if it had audio, if I'd amended the audio levels and whatever, if I've changed my mind, what I generally do is I just delete it and go find it again. But there is an easier way. In the inspector, right at the very top, 3 little dots, give that a click. We can reset the video, all video effects, all audio effects, or everything. Give that a click and it'll just revert everything back. Quick word of warning, it won't reset speed changes or stabilization though. This next one is a really obvious one, and again, I forget it all the time. I've made some adjustments to this because I'm going for a bit of a Dutch angle or whatever, and I want to see what it looked like without my transforms. You can just toggle transform on and off. So just click the little thing and you can go, this is what it looks like with those adjustments. This is what it looks like without them. And there you go. Similar vein, don't forget if you've added a keyframe, let's just do another one over here. Got a bit of a zoom in. We can use these little arrows to jump between the keyframes, which is super quick and easy. And if we right click on the keyframe, we can ease them. So let's jump back to the first one, right click, ease out. And it's much easier than having to open up the keyframes and do it all properly. If you just right click on there, you can get smoother keyframes in seconds. Me, couple there. Now there's something else, again, I forget this all the bloody time. Dynamic zooms. You don't have to turn them on. We don't have to go into the inspector to turn them on. You can turn them on within the viewer. So I use dynamic zooms a lot, and I always go to the inspector, scroll down, toggle on dynamic zoom, come to the viewer, click my little drop down, dynamic zoom, and then I amend it accordingly. But you don't have to do that first step. Let's just turn that off and we'll reset my dynamic zoom. So my dynamic zoom turned off. If we just click my little icon, as soon as we change anything, it will automatically enable the dynamic zoom setting. So you don't actually need to go into the inspector to turn it on. You also don't need to use this drop down if you want to amend it. You simply right click and we've got the options. So I can change that to ease in and out. Job done without using the inspector. We've amended and enabled a dynamic zoom. I know it's only a few clicks, but I forget every single time, and then I remember, and then I get annoyed that I forgot, so now you know. Now there's a couple more things to mention, sticking with the viewer. And if you've messed with the viewer, so I'm just going to use my mouse wheel and move this around, blah, 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 blah. If we hit Z on the keyboard, it will just immediately reset. And again, I do find myself clicking and trying to get this in the right place, but if you just hit Z on the keyboard, it will do the hard work for you. Z, if you're in America, I believe. Okay, what about this one? You've gone to your media pool, you've clicked on a video and you think, oh, I'll come back to that in a minute. And then you've gone through a few more, and then you want to get back to that original video, but you can't remember which one it was. At the very top, you've got a little drop down, and it shows you a history of the recent files that you've opened. Now, I'm using stock footage here, so it's not the best example, but I know I can go back to the clouds one. Oh, there it is. That was the clouds one I was looking for. Drag it onto my timeline, and job done. Here's a good one I always forget. Now, this one actually comes courtesy of Chadwick from the Creative Video Tips channel, who recently started a brand new series called Tricky Little Things. And the tip is really simple. In the media pool, right at the top, you've got your little magnifying glass. If you give that a click, you can search. But by default, it will only search the currently active bin. If you click the little drop down, you can change this to be all bins. So then you can just search for everything within your entire media pool. Bonus tip, editor Alex here. I had one written down, but I forgot to mention it in the video, which I know is really ironic. This isn't actually something I forgot generally, but it was something that was introduced in 18.6, so I figured it was worth mentioning. You now have the ability to open up the media pool, click on these three little dots, and you can simply remove unused clips. So anything within your media pool which isn't actually being used on any timeline, this will scrub all of the timelines within the project, will be removed from your media pool, which is just a nice, simple way of cleaning up the projects before you save them or export them or do whatever. Handy. Back to old me. This next one is called Match Frame. And again, if you forget that it's there or if you didn't know it's there, it's a bit of a pain, but once you know it's there, it's good. So if you've ever done this before, you've accidentally deleted some audio or you intentionally deleted some audio from a clip, and then later on in the edit, you realize you need it back. If you just give the footage a click on your timeline and then hit the F key, this key is called Match Frame, and what it will do is actually find the video, find the file within the media pool, and mark the in and out sections of the actual portion you have on the timeline. So I'll go F, and then I can just bring my mouse over. I can click within the preview and drag down, and I'll get the whole thing again. Or hover my mouse, I get these two little icons, a video one and an audio one. I can bring the audio one down, put it underneath the video, highlight them both, right click and relink. And we're back to where we were. Winner. Now, talking of going back to where we were, undo. I still quite often find myself frantically just smashing Control and Z to go through and undo 20 different things, and you really don't have to because there is an undo history, which I always forget is there. You simply go to Edit, History, and look, there's a history of all the stuff that I've been doing. You can say I moved a clip by 1,813 frames, and I dragged clips, and I deleted them, and whatever. You can just give them a click to go back to that particular point. You can even get this as its own little pop-out window. So as you go through doing things, it builds up this list, so you can just go, actually, we'll go back to that point there, and off we go. Yeah, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Still do it all the time. Now, just a couple more. One, you can copy grades directly on the edit page. Now, this doesn't take long to do, but I still find myself always just jumping over to the color page to copy a grade. But in the pinch, if you just want to copy it really quickly, you can do it on the edit page. So this clip here has a grade, and this one here doesn't. So if you just give it a click on the timeline so it's highlighted, Control and C to copy, onto the other one, Alt or Option and V, you get your paste attribute screen, which you've probably seen before. There is one on here called color correction. This also works for Fusion, if you've done any Fusion stuff. We're just going to go color correction, apply, and it's going to copy the grade over. Now to finish off, one thing on the color page. On the color page, you've got this icon here, and it's called sizing. And then you've got these three icons on screen. You've got edit sizing, input sizing, and then output sizing. The edit sizing is the edit page sizing. It's all of the edit page transform controls. So if we give that a click and we can zoom in, we can change the pan, the tilt, the rotation, the yaw, do whatever. And if we just go back now to the edit page, you can see, scroll up, we have all of those attributes changed. Now there is a difference between the edit sizing, input sizing, and output sizing. I've kind of put this little flowchart from the instruction manual on the screen that explains it, and a reference to the page so you can go read a little bit more down below if you want to. And that's it. What else did I forget to mention in this video about things I often forget to do? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks ever so much for watching. Hope you found it useful. Take it easy. I'll see you next time.